All right.
Welcome in, everyone, to the Slim Flippers channel. I am Wes, and I have been gone a very long time because I've been over on the Finders Flippers Resale podcast, and I've been with you, David, on the Flipping Truth podcast. And I've kind of neglected this channel, my Slim Flippers, for a little while because it gets kind of hard to keep all the balloons up in the air. But here we are, and I have David from Breeze Flippers. David, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little anxious because we're going to be talking about comics.
Yes, and I'm excited, Wes. And before Wes starts buying comic collections, first appearances, or sending everything that he finds with a cool cover to CGC, we're going to start off with some basic questions, Wes. Why comics?
I say, why not? Because you're doing it. And I thought, you know what? You've been at it almost 4 years, and I don't know the first thing about comics. So it's time for me to get out of my comfort zone a little bit, and that's what I'm going to try. I'm going to see if I can do this.
Well, listen, Wes, over the next several weeks, I'm going to help you learn how to collect, evaluate, buy, protect, and eventually sell comics. But tonight we will start with the basics. And I wish that I would have done this when I started, because there was a lot of things that I wish I've known. Now, we're going to try and figure it out, and we're going to try to help you before you start spending a lot of money, which I think you will.
That's probably smart, because right now I'd be buying whatever looked cool to me, and whatever somebody told me was worth money, because I don't know any difference.
Well, I'm going to tell you, because what'll happen is if you don't learn, you wake up with a lot of regrets and a lot of long boxes of comics that just never sell. So, right. But before we get started, I want to make something very clear, and this is because a lot of people might see me from my channel as well. I'm not a lifelong comic expert. I've only been seriously collecting comics for less than 4 years. I didn't grow up studying every publisher, creator, or character or comic era book. Most of what I came from was really buying comics, researching them, selling them, making a lot of mistakes. And gradually I learned a little bit more about the books and what matters and which ones didn't. So when I started, I made some of the same mistakes that I think a lot of new collectors and resellers make. I went out and I started buying comics without really knowing what I wanted to collect. And at the time,
Did you do a lot of cool buys in between all that, Dave?
I did. I bought a lot of cool stuff that I thought was cool, but I didn't really understand what I was buying. I mean, sometimes it worked out. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes, a lot of times it worked out. And there were a lot of times where I would buy something and thought, oh my God, I just hit the jackpot, looked it up, and it's like, this is a $500 comic. But then I realized it's only a $5 comic because of something else. So I think if I know what I know now, I would have started differently. And then when you said you really wanted to learn comics, I thought, what a great opportunity for us to kind of talk about comics and learn maybe a little bit of basics. Now, again, I'm no expert. I'm still learning a lot. I have friends that have been collecting since they were old enough to read. And those guys just amaze me with their knowledge. They just know a lot of stuff. And I'm learning stuff every day, but I don't know what they know. So
the thing that I like about this little 10-part series that we're going to do is I like the fact that people that if they're wanting to get into comics, they can do it right along with me, because we're going to learn this together.
Well, you are, and you're going to have homework every week.
I know.
You're going to have homework every week.
Is there a closed book test at the end of this? Because I'm out. I can't do
it. So if you don't do your homework, there will be grading. You will be graded. There will be a test. So anyway, but yeah, so I think, like I said, I think by the time you would be done with this, you should be able to feel a little bit more confident about what you're doing. You're still going to make a lot of mistakes. Wes, I still make a lot of mistakes. I have 24 short boxes of comics sitting over here. I have 8 over there, and I've got 20 in the other room. Some of those aren't perfect. Some of those are mistakes. Some of them are being sold on Dibdit. Some of those are being sold at my booth. Some of those are being sold on eBay. But, you know, I have fun with them. And my wife has finally let me buy them. So, okay. So,
I heard something. What was that?
She heard their name. She like,
bought your last box. I guess. So Dave, let's kind of jump in, though. Let's start with your story. What originally got you interested in comics?
To be honest with you, I saw somebody selling comics, and I was watching their video, and I was just amazed. I was drawn in by the money that he made on buying these comics for very little, getting them graded, and then reselling them. Now, that's probably the worst way to start in the selling a niche. It was not smart. I was, as a reseller and a new reseller and an impressionable reseller, or I'd say new, because I've been selling for a long time, but I just became serious about it about 5 years ago, reselling in general. But as a reseller at that time, I was just looking for things that I wanted to sell. And I thought, comics look cool. So I bought a lot of comics. I made a lot of mistakes. I bought a lot of stuff that couldn't sell, but I learned some things on the way. But what happened was, somewhere in there, I started opening them up and reading them, and I started enjoying the artwork. And then I started realizing, you know what? I like comics. I like the artwork. I like picking up new comics. I love reading new series now. I've read a lot of comics. I ended up with the Marvel app so I can read old books that I don't have. Yeah, I mean, I started enjoying
about one of your earliest mistakes, though. What was something that happened?
The earliest mistake was that I basically bought everything that I thought was valuable. I thought that every 12 and 15 cent comic was valuable. And so I was just picking them all up and paying, $2, $3, $4, $5 for a comic. And I didn't know. I didn't use the tools that we have. And we will cover those tonight. We'll cover them not in detail, but we will cover some tools that you're going to need to use. Had I known about those tools, I would have probably saved a lot of money. I was just going off of what I listened to. And I think the biggest mistake that I made was listening to other people selling comics that didn't really know how to sell comics. I don't mean that in a mean way, but they were also new at it. And I figured if they could do it, I could do it.
Well, of all those things you bought, though, early on, is there something that you would definitely pass on today that you would just say, nope, not doing that?
Honestly, I would probably pass on a lot of the DC comics, some of the Superman, Lois Lane, and different ones that not that they're not some that are valuable, because there are some that are valuable. Mm-hmm. I didn't find any enjoyment in them. I would probably have looked for more of the older Marvel comics that were Spider-Man or Hulk, or some of the more different ones. Or I probably would have stuck with like DC horror, which is really kind of cool. Some of those are very cool, but I think, I don't know. I don't.
Did you have a series or one comic that really pulled you though into the hobby though, that really anchored you to the ground with it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the older Spider-Man series I really kind of started getting into. So Amazing Spider-Man, and there's I'm also a big Todd McFarlane fan, so I started reading Spawn, and I watched all the series, and I've read most of all the Spawn books, and I'm a big Deadpool fan, even though it's not as popular right now. But I did read all the Deadpool series, and that's those were kind of the ones that got me into it. And today I'm definitely into Absolute Universe with DC. Even though I've said DC to me it was not as great, but the new Absolute Universe is just killing it, and I'm loving Absolute Batman right now.
Absolute Batman, is that the one? It's like the alternate universe that he's in.
Yeah, it's a totally different. It basically is Batman.
I didn't know something, Dave. Well, how about that?
There you go. It's Absolute Batman, and I'll highly recommend if you get a chance to read Absolute Batman. But we'll talk about some of those different ones that you need to be able to go through. So, Wes, before I tell you what to buy, I need to understand what already appeals to you. So, did you ever read any comics as a kid?
Like I said, my friend had some, and I was able to read some of his Superman stuff, Batman. I really like those. The Flash, I think.
So some of those superheroes or cartoons or television shows that you followed or anything like that I
watched. I read the Archie. Is it Archie?
Yeah, Archie. Yeah,
I read that one too.
Okay. So was there any particular character that you connected with as a kid?
I just connect with Batman. I mean, look over my shoulder over here.
Exactly. Yeah. See,
Batman's the guy. So.
Yeah. So let me ask you, as a kid or as an adult, other than those, did you collect anything else that might connect you to comics?
No, I was all about basketball at that time.
Yeah, I can understand that, because that's what you do now. So, so I guess when you think about comics and you think about the characters that come to mind, you're saying Batman. And so,
well, you had the Batman TV series as well.
Exactly.
And so Adam
Yeah.
West on there in the 60s and got to see those episodes. But that's one of the ones I think that I really connected with. So Batman would probably be my number one, I would think.
So do you think now, as far as from a visual interest, are you drawn to older artwork or some of the newer modern artwork?
Probably I would say the older.
Okay.
Probably.
And do you think so? I mean, from a standpoint of looking at artwork, I mean, so the covers would matter to you, or does it matter more what's inside the book?
I think the covers is what sells it, really.
Okay. I guess, because that's one of the things that I fell in love with first was the art, and it was the covers that really got me, and it got me particularly, interested in a particular artist or a style. So, so here's a real question.
I mean, I know the saying you can't judge a book by its cover, but
right. You can in a comic.
I mean, and again, I'm a novice at this, so in a comic world, I would think the artwork is everything on the cover. I would think.
Right. Do you think you'd enjoy reading comics now?
That's a good question. I haven't read one since I was a kid, so I can't say yes or no. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's it's one of those things where I think, like I said, it's cool to kind of start learning about them and start learning to sell them or do the different things that you could do. But I also think that you kind of have to get connected to them in some way. So, all right. Well, it sounds like you might be interested in Batman. All right. Or I don't know if you like Spider-Man or not, but those are also some good ones. Some of the older ones have some great artwork. But I think this gives us kind of a starting point. I mean, you don't need to declare anything tonight for lifelong collecting or anything. So, but I do think
I do have the 3 foot guy over here. So
yeah, you might like the Star Wars series too from Marvel, the original one.
Oh, so, I didn't know. I didn't even think about Star Wars. But
yeah, Star Wars.
Darth Vader on this side.
Exactly. So I saw Darth Vader up there, but that may be another one that you might be interested in. So I think that people collect comics for a lot of different reasons. They either have favorite characters, the stories they enjoy, they either the cover art. There may be artists or writers that they're drawn to, or maybe something from their childhood that's nostalgic to them. There's a lot of history in some of these comic books, and it's also fun. A lot of them will complete a run or a series run or an artist run. They'll buy all the appearances from a particular artist. But there's a lot of people who will buy comics for investment or speculation down the road based on rumors and things that happen. There's just a lot of different reselling opportunities that you can also find, but it's also kind of, there's an enjoyment to searching and discovering something, right? So, but which out of all those reasons, which one sounds like it's right for you right now?
I think the artwork. I mean, I just think some things are just really cool. And when I see them, I'm like, man, that is very detailed, and that's what visually connects me. I think I'm a visual learner as well. Okay. So I like to see stuff, I guess. Well, and I look at your shelf all the time back there. I'm kind of amazed by it. I'm just sitting there looking at it. It's got a lot of details to it.
They are, and some of them are amazing. Some of them are so simple. It's just crazy the different artists and what they do. So, I mean, and there's no wrong reason to collect comics. And we're really, what we're trying to do is not turn you into a complete collector, but you want to be able to learn how to buy comics. But at some point, you kind of got to be a little bit connected to them, because just buying stuff, if it isn't fun, and we've already talked about it, if it isn't fun, it really isn't worth doing, right? So you got to kind of know when
I agree that you got to have a connection, but then you start thinking, I don't want to overpay.
Right. Those are the things that you're going to learn, I think, as we go along. But so I think one of the first things that you hear as a new collector, you hear about the different ages. You hear Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, Copper Age, and Modern Age. But I don't think you need to memorize the exact dates, but I think you do need to kind of understand what you're looking for. And this is one of the things that I had to learn early on. I didn't understand it. So somebody said, what's a Golden Age? I had no idea. But I read a couple good books to understand it, to help me understand it. But I'm assuming, and I'm just going to say this out before you say anything, Golden Age is like really old? It's really old. Yeah. Okay. Your late 1930s is about when the comics came around. There were comics before that, but they weren't really considered comics. But generally the late 1930s, the early 1950s, it's a really early superhero period. Those are hard to find. Golden Age comics in condition is always going to be the issue with those. They're just the fact that they made them out of newspaper print. They were flimsy. They didn't last long, and it's hard to find them. And then you have
I didn't even know that. And they made them out of newspaper print. Wow.
Right, really thin paper, and which is why now it's really hard to recondition some of them. Silver Age was mid-50s through like 1969, and that was really the superhero revival.
My year, 69.
There you go. And it's also a lot of really important Marvel and DC characters were introduced and then reintroduced. Those are very collectible. Silver Age, anything through that 1969 era. And then you had Bronze Age, and there's still a very good era, a lot of good stuff in Bronze. Generally, it was like 1970s to the mid 1980s. You had a lot more mature stories. A lot of the artwork was really changing. There was, while there wasn't really a lot of computer drawings yet, but, they were still mostly hand drawn. But books were still affordable. And I think it's a strong area for collectors and resellers in that area. Then you have Copper Age, which was mid 1980s through the early 1990s. And that's where a lot of independent publishers came from. So this is where they started kind of popping out because
just kind of like a flood of comics coming.
Right. Marvel and DC were the main ones. And there were some other ones that came out that were, before that time, like Carlton Comics and then later it became like Image Comics and different ones. But you had a lot of different characters coming out during the Copper Age, and then a lot of popular modern keys from that period. And then your Modern Age, which is basically the 1990s to the day. So there's now we're dealing with variants and multiple printings, exclusives. There was lots of different changing print runs. And that's another thing to really kind of know is that, in the 80s and the 90s, there was a lot of books, especially the 90s, really the 90s more than anything. There were books that were just overprinted, like just printed so many copies, and that can make a difference on pricing as well. So there's a lot of things that you have to know. So they just ran so many prints that they're just common. You can find them anywhere. So
Dave, one thing thinking about these ages, there's nothing that's printed on there that says this is a golden age or whatever. You have to know the year, correct?
Right.
And does each comic show the years on there?
Yeah, they do. If you open up to the first page, there's always the one of the first pages. Generally, it's the second page from the cover. So the inside page, you can look down and see when it was printed. And generally, you would also see if that was a first print or a second print or a third print. So comics that were extremely popular would go through multiple printings. And that happened more later than earlier. But, and then again, Marvel for many years, I think through the 80s, maybe a little bit into the 90s, reprinted old stories from way back, and they printed them under a different name. So Marvel Tales and different things. So there's a lot of different nuances and things that you would look, because you would go, oh man, that looks like a good book. Well, it's actually a reprint from a story from 10 years ago or 15 years ago. But, it could still be valuable because it was a key then. It may be a key then too now. So, but I guess here's a question for you, but just from the artwork, a little, already, which period sounds more interesting to you?
I would think I would be in between the Bronze and the Silver Age.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at too. But
I would think that the Golden Age is going to be A, hard to find, and B, if you do find it, it's going to be very expensive.
You'd actually be shocked. You will find a lot of Golden Age comics, especially like the ones from Dell, the cartoon ones, Hanna-Barbera books and things like that. Yeah. You'll find them, but the condition is, I've been hard pressed to find any that were in really good condition, but they're fun to look at, and I do still enjoy getting them. So, right. So I think in this section is basically we'll talk about the different comic types, and that but two comics can feature the same character, have the same issue number, but they're completely different versions. And I think we'll go deeper into that in the next session. But there's a lot of different things that you kind of need to know. And here's some terms. There'll be a test later, everyone. Okay. Just kidding. Take notes. I'm just saying. But there's like ongoing series, mini series. There's one shots. You'll see a lot of those. There's annual printings. There's first printings, later printings, newsstand editions, direct editions, cover variants, store exclusives, incentive variants, facsimile editions. Those always get you. Reprints, raw comics, or professionally graded comics like these.
One thing I didn't hear you say, free comic book.
There are some free comic books. Every year, there's Free Comic Book Day. I think it's twice a year. I got to look and see. I think it's once a year.
I did know that.
Yeah. So Free Comic Book Day is a great day to go get some comic books. So have you heard any of those terms before other than the free comic book?
Newsstand editions, I have heard that.
Okay.
I have heard, I think, reprints. I've heard that.
Okay.
Miniseries, I've heard that. And what was the other one you said?
Cover variant.
Exclusive, I think, is a store exclusive. That's
right.
I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I'm assuming it's exclusive to that store that's selling them. Is that correct?
Generally, yeah. So there are store exclusives. Like there's a lot of comic book stores, the bigger ones, that can actually have their name put on the back of the comic,
right?
And they will actually, like, there's 616 Comics.
Does that hurt the book though? I would think them putting their actual.
It makes it a variant. So, and the thing about a lot of these ones is they're limited print runs. That's generally what those are. Sometimes some of these books they'll commission an artist to do that for them, and then they get to put their name on the book. But
when you say variant, just for me and whoever else is thinking about getting into it, a variant is something that is different
from the regular run.
From the regular, okay.
Right. So, I mean, in this day and age, you'll hear variants more than anything, because I'll give you an example. I think for Absolute Batman 1, there are 89 variants for that book.
Wow.
So you can see what's going to happen a lot of times is that drives value down on a lot of these different books. But it's also why identification matters. I mean, you can't really research a comic correctly until you know which comic you have. So
hang in there with me, everybody. We're all taking this in. We'll take it in together.
This is stuff that I wish I'd have known when I first started. I will tell you that. But the other thing that I'm going to introduce you through this whole series, though, is like the comic collector's toolbox. And a lot of these tools are digital. Some of them are physical. You can't be expected to remember every first appearance or every first printing or every key issue or every recent selling price. It just doesn't make sense. But the important skill isn't so much as memorizing every comics published, it's knowing which tools to use and which information each tool provides. So when you go in to verify, it's telling you what you need. And some of the tools we'll cover as we go. The tools that I use, these are the ones I use all the time. I use Key Collector Comics. Matter of fact, that's the one that you're going to end up with this week. You're going to use. I also use Cover Price. For a lot of different reasons, because it gives me different pricing.
I'm assuming these are apps you're talking about. Is that correct?
Yeah, Key Collector actually has an app. Cover Price is a website, and Go Collect is a website. And I also use eBay, because the reality is that if you scan a book with eBay and it tells you what the sold price was, that's what they're willing to pay. So it may have a value of $100, but you only see solds for $50. That's the price. I hate to say it to people, but that's generally the price. And it could have been somebody that got a good deal, and you're going to want to look at the averages, but I use eBay to say this is what people are actually paying for that comic. And then there are a lot of other online comic databases and reference guides you can use. And then there are other options too for tracking and organizing your collection. And then some of the physical tools that I use, you have to have proper comic bags and boards, period.
You have told me about that time and time again.
Yes, it's just something you're going to have to invest. I buy them 1,000 at a time. That's the way I get them. I buy them from a Comic Pro or Comic Pro line, I believe it's called. It's off the top of my head, or Pro Line Comics. I can't remember, but I'll look it up. But anyway, I buy them 1,000 at a time. You also want to have comic storage boxes. So you might need to invest in one box.
Are you talking about the longer boxes that?
Yeah, they're short. You can get the short boxes. You can get fancy ones that have pretty printing on them, like Spider-Man and all that stuff. So you're going to want to look for at least one storage box. Eventually, you're going to want to have a magnifying glass or a printer's loop. This is what I would call a printer's loop. Basically, this opens up, and then you can basically put it down on a comic, and you can look and get details. So I can see spine ticks or different things. We'll talk about condition at some point, but you want a strong light, to be honest with you, because you need something that's adjustable so that you can see, raking light to see surface defects, so you can actually see some issues. You're going to want to be able to understand how what a clean or see fingerprints. Fingerprints can actually be bad for a book, especially for grading. I learned that the hard way. Try sending some of those in, and it comes back and it says fingerprints in top right corner. I'm like, well, that's my fingerprint. How did I do that?
I had to get it in the bag.
Yeah, I got to get in the bag. So
need white gloves, right?
And if you're going to sell comics, which the point is, yeah, eventually you're going to do that, you're going to need, measuring and packing supplies, comic mailers, and then like shipping protection. And that's a whole different, we'll have to do that as a hands-on thing. So, so when you research something that you're unfamiliar with now, I mean, do you rely on one source or do you use several sources?
I use several. You have to.
Okay. So have you ever used any comic book apps?
No.
You ever heard of any of those apps at all? Key Collector, Cover Price?
I think I have heard of the Key Collector. I think I've heard of that one.
Okay.
I actually know that's an app, I believe.
Okay. So right now, though, you wouldn't know whether you wouldn't know how to use Key Collector to check to see if it's a key or not. No. That's something we will have to cover. So, but it'll
be key in my learning.
Exactly. There's no single tool that's going to give you that complete answer. And one tool may tell you why a comic's important. Another may show you recent sales. Another can help you identify maybe the printing or the variants. But I mean, you still have to verify them and you still have to examine their condition. You still have to compare the sales and decide what the price makes sense, right? So we're not going to dive into all those tools tonight because I think that, right now, the key tonight and this week that you're going to have this little bit of homework is finding comics that actually interest you. And as we move through this whole series, I'm going to, introduce you to the tool when it becomes useful rather than just dumping the entire toolbox in your lap and say, here you go. So,
take off.
So
but I do this, David, too. Like I talked about Batman. The people that are watching, you may have somebody completely different. It could be Wolverine, I think, Hulk.
Yeah. It could be anybody. It could be Thor. It could be Silver Surfer.
Right. Any of those. And I've heard of Silver Surfer before, too.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool
any of those, but put it down in the comments. What's your favorite?
Yeah.
So we'd like to know.
I also like X-Men. I do love X-Men. So, all right. So I think you kind of from a series preview, what we'll go through, and this is, again, this is what we're doing on your channel for you to learn because you wanted to learn comics. But over the next coming sessions, you're going to learn how to identify comics correctly, the comic ages and editions and how they differ, why comics need bags and boards. I'm going to explain that to you. I want to teach you how to handle and store them, how to recognize obvious condition defects. Those are the ones that are probably going to get you the most. How to separate into low, mid, or high grade comics, when condition matters greatly and when it matters less, to be honest with you. What makes it desirable, how to research it, how to recognize keys or variants or runs, or how to decide whether the comic's worth buying in the first place, right? So, evaluate them for resale, how to photograph and describe comics. Listen, I'm still learning how to photograph and describe comics. You know how hard it is to photograph there's just no right way of doing it.
I kind of hope I find out, but then I kind of hope I don't.
Yeah, it is so hard to photograph those. But, I also want to at some point kind of talk you through, you might find a large comic collection, how to evaluate that and what tools that I actually use. I know some people will be surprised, but I use a lot of AI to identify pictures and try to pull out comics and really determine whether or not I want to buy a lot of these bigger collections. But I do use that to kind of help me make that decision. It's not my only decision, but I do help it, to have it listed out and tell me some stuff. So, and maybe how to do some offers without buying a truckload of colorful paper and all that at full retail. So we're trying to help you do all that. But out of all those subjects, though, which ones do you think are going to be the most difficult?
I think knowing the condition, because you just showed that little light and stuff and you were looking. That's going to be, I think it's going to be kind of hard because I'm not sure if I'm really sure what I'm looking at.
Yeah, but that's the fun part about it. And had I known that from the get-go and how much each condition makes a difference in either grading or reselling, then I probably would have bought a lot less comics. So,
well, everything that you just ran through, David, it's fun to hear that. And then I can kind of basically niche into where I think I'm going to have a major problem and try to really focus on that.
Right. And we'll work through that. So, all right. So to kind of tie this up tonight, because like I said, we kind of gave the overview. I think this is the fun part. This is where you get an assignment. And anybody out there who wants to do this is fine. You can adjust your budget to however much you have. You don't have to do it this way. I'd say, your first assignment is not to go out and find a key comic. It's not to find something you're going to grade. It's not going to find something that you can flip for 5 times your money. Your first assignment is just discover something you enjoy. Keep your budget $10 to $20, but your mission this week, should you choose to accept it, is to visit a local comic book shop and spend some time browsing.
Which I told you I've never been in one, so I'm kind of anxious to do this.
You're going to have fun with that. Don't walk in and grab the first 3 numbers or number 1 issues you see and leave. Don't do that.
Okay.
Take some time. What I want you to do is, browse several sections, look through some comics, flip through some, because you're going to see a lot that are going to be in bags and boards. You won't be able to open those. But if you go to a true good comic book shop, they're going to have all of the new issues sitting on the shelf, not bagged and boarded, so you can open them and look at them, because that's the way they generally sell them. And then you take them.
Let me ask you this, and I'm sure this is different in every store, but the workers, how do you approach them? Do you tell them you're just a novice and they're ready to feed you to the lions, or I think they're going to pick up on I'm a real novice? So.
I follow the honesty approach. When I first started looking at it, I would just tell them, I'm new to comics. I don't know what I'm looking at. And I go, do you have any recommendations for a comic to start reading? They may look at you as like, well, you're pretty old to start looking at comics, but that's okay. But, I did that with a local comic book shop here when I first started learning about them, especially when I started learning what I wanted to get graded. And that I jumped into grading too fast. I will tell you that. I spent a lot of money that I didn't need, and I learned a hard lesson, but that's a totally different lesson that we won't even get into here. But so I did
give me the rules again. Give me the rules again.
All right. So what I really want you to do is I want you to visit a local comic book shop and just start browsing through them. I want you to go in and look at some of the different books, see which ones you like. It can be modern ones, but most of the ones you're going to see right now are going to be modern. Okay. You can go through some of the back issues. You can even look for their dollar bins. And that's always fun, because you'll see they'll call it back issue bins, where you'll go in and you can actually find comics from back issues, but their prices are going to vary, usually from $2 to $100, depending on what you're finding. But you might find something in there. Go through their dollar bins. Their dollar bins are typically $1. And sometimes you'll find them, they'll say, you can get 12 books for $10. So, but you can go through and kind of look and just find some books that you look at some older ones, look at some modern ones. Maybe open it up and read the description of the first few pages, if you're allowed, if you can get into it. And you kind of notice which covers and characters catch your attention. I think that's what's cool. You can ask the comic book shop employee if they would give you one recommendation based on your interest. Maybe they give you something to read. And I would just say buy 2 or 3 inexpensive comics that you generally want to read. And then try to choose one comic because of the character, try to choose one book because of the cover, and maybe try to sound one that maybe the story sounds interesting. And it can be the same comic that satisfies all 3, to be honest with you, if you want to do it that way. But don't spend more than $20. Don't buy any graded comics. Don't buy an expensive key. Don't look up resale values while you're in there. Don't do that. Just
I'm going to keep it very simple, I promise you.
Yeah, keep it very simple. And don't call me. Just ask me about it.
I won't call you to ask you.
But I want you to read the comic before next session. Okay. This is the one thing that I wish I would have learned. I appreciated it more, and now I appreciate it more, but I've learned it the hard way. And then for each comic, just note the title, issue number, publisher, what you paid for it, why you chose it, what caught your attention, and then maybe why you enjoyed reading it, and then whether or not you would buy the next issue if you had to. Okay. So, or do you see this as something as a keeper or something you would eventually sell? So, anyway, like I said, if you really wanted to ask the employee there something, you could say, I'm new to comics based on characters and types. You can just ask that question.
Can you help me? And they may say, what are you interested in?
Right. Yeah. So, but we're not going to evaluate this based on what the book's worth or anything. I think it's just something we want to get you into something that you can enjoy. So, and if anybody's watching, you can participate too. I think it's interesting. And I think it would be fun to ask, what comic or characters list, pulled them into collecting. If you guys want to answer on there, would be great, or what mistake, if you're a comic collector and a reseller, what mistake did you make when you first started? So
yeah, let us know. And if you are trying this with me, let us know. Or if you've made a mistake, like you said, or if you found an inexpensive series or something that I could probably find, let us know, because I am complete new at this. So
you're gonna do fine. So like I said, this week's easy. Just kind of fun for you. But so next time we come back, we're gonna we're gonna take a look at what you bring back, what you chose, and then we'll identify exactly what you bought. We'll discuss it, and then we'll talk about maybe a little bit more about discovering comics and everything. So anyway, this is Wes Learns Comics, man.
That's what it is, and it's here on the Slim Flippers. Like we said earlier, you can find Dave and I both over on the Flipping Truth. We have a podcast over there, a reselling podcast, and I'm also on the Finders Flippers Resale podcast. And I'm trying to do more on this channel here on my Slim Flippers, trying to pick it back up because Dave, just this past week, I went over 500 subscribers on this channel. So,
that's congrats, man. That's awesome. And you can find me over at Breeze Flippers. So look over at Breeze Flippers, and we talk a lot about comics over there. I talk a lot every Thursday. I do what's called Breeze's Comic Corner, and I talk about the top 20 comics, the top 10 comics, the highest selling comics, and different ones. So it's just a lot of fun. I'm learning. You're learning. This is a continuous learning process. I am by means no expert, but man, I love learning about this stuff, and it gets me all excited. So,
David, I appreciate you getting me started, and I look forward to seeing you next week here on the Slim Flipper. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you.
You got it, man. I can't wait to see what you come back with. So, thanks a lot.
See you.